Welcome back to the Makers Summit 2021. I hope you had a great first start of the day. A lot of interesting conversations, sessions going on. We had a quick lunch break. A lot of food for thought already, but this has just begun. It's a 3 days of journey, intense conversations, ideas, possibilities, and so much more. And we wanted to keep this very special session in the afternoon because this is one of the most exciting conversations that we're going to have today. And the session is decoding the product engine behind India's gaming moment. Now, why we want to talk about the gaming moment? When COVID happened last year, we saw a big uptake in people playing fantasy esports, virtual card and board games. And it was obvious because it kept us very spirited and made our otherwise lives, which were difficult, much easier and joyful. And it somehow still continues to do that. But what we saw happen in the last year was an outcome of a long transformation that was gradually happening. So the gaming industry was brewing and it actually exploded last year, and which made us wonder, and it still does, that we want to take this time to understand what is the gaming roadmap ahead. Right? We have a lot of questions about the kind of product market fit ideas do we need to think, or about how high decibel product marketing can get us the kind of growth which is like a 10x growth, and what are the secrets behind monetizing, so much more. So we thought of curating this session and bringing two amazing speakers with us. I want to take this moment to invite my moderator for this session, who is Chinmay. If I can see Chinmay. Hi, Chinmay.
Hey, Ajit.
Hi. Chinmay, thank you for joining us. For our community who's joining, Chinmay is a venture partner at BNext, and he also leads platform initiatives. Besides India investments and actively engaging with the portfolio, he's also leading the community charter across the BNext Global Founder Network. He spent many, many years in the tech industry. He's now a veteran. He's worked with Facebook, Microsoft, many startups. And something very interesting that not many people would probably know, but BNext was an early investor in Mobile Premier League, whose co-founder and CEO, Sai Srinivas, is joining me now as the speaker for this session. Hi, Sai.
Hi, Ajit. Hi, Chinmay. How are you guys?
Hi.
Welcome. Glad to have you both. And Sai, I just want to tell my community, and there are thousands of people who are watching us live right now, that it's incredible that your company achieved hypergrowth during the pandemic last year, and just started in 2018. You are one step short of becoming a unicorn. Fabulous work, incredible things that you are doing, and we are really glad that we could get both of you together for this conversation for our community, because people are very, very interested, excited to know what's happening. Without any delay, I want to hand it over to Chinmay, who could share more about what's happening at MPL, and Sai obviously will share a lot of insights. The session needs to be in the right hands. Chinmay, the stage is all yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Ajit. And it's an absolute honor to kind of be here at the Maker Summit Buying 42. I think the team's doing a fabulous job. And thank you, Sai, again for joining for this candid conversation at this moment. I think it is something that I've been looking forward to for a while, since I last met you in Bangalore in the physical world. Haven't spent a lot of time on MPL yet, so a little guilty of not playing that many number of games, but I hope to catch up soon. Just for everybody's benefit, I know Ajit really introduced Sai a little briefly. We've had the good fortune of kind of knowing Sai at BNext as an early backer for his adventure. And Sai, for those people who don't know much, was also a founder of a company called Creo, which was a mobile hardware company, which ultimately had gotten acquired. And this is his second venture, if I'm not wrong. And Sai has always been passionate about mobile gaming, and has spent a lot of his early professional days at companies like Zynga, being a game developer himself. And his intention of democratizing gaming and the world of esports with MPL it has been fascinating. And then what numbers, amazing numbers for MPL itself. And I know Ajit briefly talked about it. You started the company in 2018 with Shubham. Last valuation $945 million. Your Series D of $95 million. 60 million users in India and 3.5 million users in Indonesia, which is again something that talks about the global impact that you're creating. And with 70 plus games across multiple sports, I think MPL is a force to reckon with. So I'm gonna just jump straight in, Sai, with a little bit of a interesting story that I kind of cajoled Teru, our founder, to kind of pull out. So when I asked him, I said, listen, what made you kind of invest in MPL? He says, actually, Sai came brimming with three ideas to him. And in his hearts of hearts, actually, Teru always sensed that you were kind of very clearly focused on building MPL. And I'm just curious to know, we've done MPL, we've started off with that journey, but did we miss a unicorn opportunity in perhaps another category that we should be aware of?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You missed any opportunity in another category. To be honest, I mean, I kind of knew that I wanted to do MPL, but just so that I kind of show Teru that I've done my homework well. I also had another idea that. So I was thinking. I was thinking of doing cloud kitchens, and thank God I didn't do cloud kitchens because, man, I think I'd have been horrible at it. I think I would have run that company to the ground. So comparatively, I'm way more at peace, building games and building a platform for competitive gaming. I think very early on, like you said, in my career, I've had an opportunity to work with some incredible people at Zynga, and there's one thing about games that people usually it's quite out there in the open, but when you realize it, you understand the power of games. That gaming and games are probably the only form of content in the world that do not have a language. For example, you can be playing a game of pool with the Japanese. You can be playing a game of pool with anyone, but they'll understand the game. You'll understand the game. It's a language that everybody understands and everybody can participate in. Unlike any other form of content, take video for example, right? Video has a language. So if you're playing an English video, someone who doesn't understand English won't understand it. If you're playing music, and if you're playing, say, a Telugu song, someone who probably doesn't speak that language isn't going to understand it. But that's not the case with games. And this was something that one designer at Zynga told me back in the day, and since then, like it's been something that I always wanted to do. I'm very happy that Teru backed me along with a couple of other investors back then, and we had this opportunity to build MPL.
Oh, great! No, in fact, I love the analogy that you've given, right? The universal language like mathematics. In fact, gamification is kind of a term that's used across sectors. So interesting to see that insight. So let me also kind of start by in true cricketing style, throw some googlies or bouncers or tosses your way. What games do you play in your real life?
Like games as in like sports, or games as in like video games?
Any game, like a mobile game or whatever.
Yeah, so mobile games, I like pool a lot. I like playing pool a lot. I also was playing Among Us a lot recently. Then back in the day, I was, I have to accept, I used to like Candy Crush a lot. I still like it. It's just that now I've cleared so many levels that it's become a little irrelevant. I think some 700 odd levels I've cleared in Candy Crush. And apart from that, of course, I like first-person shooters in mobile games. But apart from that, on console, I like playing. I played FIFA. I like playing FIFA a lot. To play a lot of Call of Duty and Uncharted. So those are pretty much the games that I enjoy playing.
And is it purely for casual times, or is it also to kind of understand the gameplay, the way this product has been written? Is that mind also kind of constantly at work?
I think, that mind is constantly at work, always, right? Like, I think that is something you're always curious about, how products are built or how games are built. But I think when I'm playing, it's more about I love the competitive nature in games, right? Like any game where there's a competitive element, I like playing it. The only exception is Candy Crush, right? But every other game that I've played, it's always been a competitive game, and I really like the competitive element in games. But I think the best way to actually, if you want to learn how games are built, the best way to learn it is actually watch game streams. It's much better than playing the game yourself, because when you're watching someone else play the game, then all your the cognitive load on your brain is lesser. So all your focus is on just looking at the game and seeing the person play it. So you get a view of both the person who's playing it as well as the game. So it's also a very interesting game. Games are very interesting products, right? Say, for example, you take a food ordering service, right? You open the food ordering service very, very clearly to know, man, I'm hungry, I'm going to order something. With games, it's not like that, right? You open the game, and you would be pretty much fine even if you don't open the game. There's no definite need for you to open the game, but you open the game because you enjoy playing the game.
Right.
First is that. And the second thing is, it's the only form of product which is probably the most interactive, right? If you put products on an axis of zero interactivity to infinite interactivity, games are probably the products which have incredible amount of interaction, right? Say if you take even video, the only time you'll interact with the video is if you want to pause that video or you want to increase or reduce the volume, right? But with games, you have to keep interacting with them, else you won't move along, and that's what makes them such unique products. I think product managers who had the opportunity to work on gaming, most people will tell you that it is at the, if there was a Maslow's pyramids of products, the games are probably the most toughest products to design, to be honest.
Right. No, that's fascinating. And just curious, kind of when we are kind of looking into your background, right? You worked on the Android OS part of it, and then you kind of worked on the messenger side of things. What really prompted the shift to gaming? Was it this love for gaming, or is game, or what else?
See, I think for me, as a product person and as a person who likes building things, I've always been fascinated. About building products which are quite different or unique. So when we were trying to build when we were trying to fork an operating system back at Creo, the whole thought process was to really figure out what it takes to do that. I was more an engineer then. Let me just put it this way, right? It was my engineering. The engineering side in me was more at play than the business, or should I say, the business side of me or the product side of me. But with say some of my other stints like Utopia and so on and so forth, it was more the challenge of building the product, right? I think sometimes it's important to understand that a lot of people who want to be product managers, or who want to be say, for example, involved in the job of product. They often tend to associate with the results that the product gets, DAO, MAU, ARPUs, and all that stuff, which probably investors like a lot. But the best way to actually really be good product managers is to love building, right? If you enjoy building, and if you enjoy building products, then eventually all those things will come, right? So with Creo, with Utopia, with Zynga, I think right from college, I straight out of my college, I chose to be a product manager, right? Back in 2010, product management was not as fancy as it is today. In fact, back in the day, the only kind of jobs or gigs that most people graduating from engineering colleges, especially IITs, would be either consulting or, how should I say, investment banking. Those were, or the usual ITC, FMCG, and so on and so forth, right? So product management was like, what is this, right? Why? What does this even mean, right? So it was for me. That was it was a very obvious choice, and I'm very happy that I did that. Yeah, I'm very happy that I did that.
In fact, that's so when with that lens on of your product management interest, and you probably understood this from the core of your belief systems rather than the subject matter itself. What was life like at Utopia or Zynga?
I think Utopia was great because it was a very small team. My boss there was this person called Ankit. Incredible person, incredible person, and they were building a product which was quite amazing. I think I still look back at that product experience and think that it was probably one of the most ingenious products ever developed. Just to give you a small context on what that product was, back in 2011, data was not as freely available as it is today, and there weren't any smartphones also in India, right? It was mainly your feature phones and no internet. But Facebook was pretty popular in India, right? So we used this protocol called USSD, which is basically, you remember, you back in the day used to dial *321# or *123# to know your balance and stuff on your Airtel mobile, or on any mobile for that matter, right? And we basically used that mechanism to enable people to check their news feed on Facebook, or send messages to each other on Facebook. And it was an ingenious product now, and it was just the fun of building the product that was quite amazing. But I think Zynga was honestly my finishing school, right? Zynga basically taught me what it meant to build products at scale, and Zynga really was also a melting pot of talent, right? I don't think there's been I don't think there's ever been a place where the best artists, the best engineers, the best product managers, the best analysts have come together. That's the other beauty. That's the other really beautiful thing about games, right? In it's games is basically when the best of art and the best of science come together, right? You need incredible engineers, you need incredible artists, you need incredible designers, you need incredible sound designers, you need incredible storytellers. They all come together to create what a game is. So Zynga had all of that, and it was almost a finishing school for me, right? Post Zynga, I gained the confidence that, hey, you know what, I can actually build products for scale, right? And it took me a while to build something for reasonable scale. I mean, it took me about 6-7 years post Zynga to actually meaningfully do something at scale, but yeah, I think I still look back at that experience at Zynga and said mostly whatever I've learned, most of it came from that.
Oh, excellent. That's fascinating. So, I'd love to kind of dive a little bit now into the India gaming movement, so to speak, right? So,
Yeah.
look at the stats even just from last year, which obviously has been like a breakthrough year for many companies like yourselves.
Right.
Gamers in India at 326 million, $1.2 billion is estimated to be the size as per one of the Inc. 42 reports itself. Sixth ranking in the world from just the size of the gaming market in India. 41% increase in the time spent on games, and then expected employment in the industry just for, like, I think India's gaming industry alone is supposed to be 40,000 people by 2022. So there's never been like a better summary that I have read across a sector as what I've just kind of described. Do you think that with this kind of thing that we now feel like is obvious in hindsight, when in your mind was the tipping point that you believe that there is an India gaming tipping moment either ready to
Sure.
arrive or I need to be part of that?
Sure. I think it's actually that's a very good question, and it has a very simple answer, right? For any digital ecosystem to take off, right, you need three things, right? You need data, you need device, and you need payments, right? If all these three pillars are in place, digital ecosystems take off very rapidly, right? Now, what happened in India was in 2016, UPI launched, right? Uh, Before that, of course, there was data and there was device, but 2016 UPI launched. That basically meant that if Chinmay, you wanted to pay 3 rupees also using your mobile phone, you can actually do it, right? You don't have to go through a wallet. You don't have to go through 50 different things. And even before that, there were wallets, but the only way to load money into those wallets is via credit card or a debit card, right? It kind of defeated the purpose. But with UPI, all of that changed. And once that happened, it kind of was reasonably obvious that the next thing that's going to happen after that is gaming. And in fact, if you look at any Indian gaming companies which have done well in India from a transactional perspective, all of that happened after UPI only. So, I mean, huge credit to the folks who built it. It's probably going to it is a game changer. It's probably going to spur a lot of innovations, including micro tipping and so on and so forth, that you'll see in streaming and a bunch of other applications which will come down the line in the next 3-4 years. But I think 2016 and 2017 was when this tipping point started. And I think we were very lucky to be at the right place at the right time in 2018 to actually go ahead and capitalize on this.
Got it. And just would love to kind of also hear your perspective on what's happening in, like, let's say, the categories in India itself, right? So you have esports, you have fantasy sports, you have casual gaming. What's your take or read of the moment right now?
I think the read of the moment is quite simple. Pretty much all of these categories will end up building large businesses, right? The way I look at it is fantasy is a pretty large segment in itself. There are many companies in it. You have esports, which is a much newer segment. The the entire this entire ecosystem will do very well. But the thing is, gaming as an industry, if you were to look at traditional gaming, that will be much larger than most of the other industries, right? Because gaming is very big, and since you have multiple different games, you have casual games, you have mid-core games, you have first-person shooters, strategy games, so on and so forth, right? And if you look at any industry across the world, gaming is pretty much larger than the next 2 or 3 media forms combined, right? If you look at even the US, the gaming industry is larger than Hollywood and the entire music industry combined, right? If you look at China also, that's true. And in India, it's still not there, but I'm reasonably sure in the next 2-3 years, it'll be much larger. The second thing also, one interesting point which I wanted to mention, which I was thinking about when you were talking about the amount of employment it's going to generate in India, right? I think gaming is going to be one such industry which India will export to the world. It will be one such industry which India will export. Right? Our gaming platforms, our games will be exported, and it's already happening. By the way, there are many gaming studios in India which are very quiet, incredibly good gaming studios in India, which are making games for global audiences, and they're doing wonderfully well. Wonderfully well. You wouldn't even have heard their names, right? And it's one of those software industries which has been in the business of exporting for a long, long time, right?
Right.
Most other consumer startups or software industries in India are not exporters. They're still domestic. They supply. I mean, they're mainly catering to domestic demand. That's the other really big thing about gaming, which I wanted to mention when you said about employment.
Right. I think the fascinating takeaway from there is very simple, right? And it's very counterintuitive. When you look at large markets or opportunities, you say, hey, listen, to best understand the customer, you have to be very close to the customer. And typically in a gaming scenario, because we have this wonderful community of gamers, who are really spending a lot of hours and also having their product hats kind of turned on or antennas turned on, able to kind of create these experiences is what I hear you say, which is, I think, again, a fascinating angle to kind of exploit going forward as an industry. So,
Absolutely.
with the MPL journey around this category, what have been some of your high level key learnings from MPL up till this point, this 2016 tipping point moment till now?
I think the one key learning is always been about. I think we always believed that a platform is the way to go. As in, simple analogy that I keep giving is that you rarely walk into a shopping mall and walk out empty-handed. Right? You will buy something. You will buy a can of cola. You will buy something. Right? So our philosophy has always been provide the best variety of games for the customers. There might be a user or there might be a player who prefers playing games. There might be a player who prefers playing pool. Might be another player who prefers playing chess. Right, the platform which will provide the best of quality for all of them is the platform that will do well. Sometimes also a lot of people in the ecosystem question us as to why we don't make games. I mean, how is this company valued so much and they have not made even a single game so far? I mean, that's firstly not true. We did make some games. But that being said, Airbnb is probably the largest, hotel property in the world, and they don't own any hotels, right? I mean, so at the end of the day, largest inventory of rooms, but they don't own any hotels, right? I mean, it's honestly medieval thinking, but at the same time, there's so much of heavy lifting that you can do for game developers, and you can make their life better, and you can enable game developers to publish and monetize their games better, right? Monetize their games in a way which Indian consumers will enable, and Indian consumers are comfortable with. If you look at it in the last. Most of our games on the platform are actually made by Indian developers, and a lot of these guys have made significant amount of returns from the games that they've built for the platform.
Great. So I think that's a perfect segue to kind of now start talking about building things at MPL. So I'm going to focus a little bit. So having spent a lot of time in the US and looked at Zynga, looked at Utopia, and all of these wonderful experiences that you brought there forward into MPL, how is it different in building a product in India for India?
I think the first thing building a product in India is one part. India is another part, right?
Sure.
I think building a product, the process you follow anywhere across the world, the best processes are consistent anywhere, right? I'll give you an example, right? Amazon, for example, right? It's built a product. That product works wonderfully well in India, as well as it works in US or 10 other countries or 50 other countries that it is in. So what usually people should realize and understand is the processes that go behind building great products are always consistent, right? Now, building a product in India is that you need to find incredibly good designers, incredibly good developers, and you need to ensure that you build a rigor in the system. Rigor in the system means the process that you use to build the product, right? What is the method you go about it, right? What are the checkpoints, etc., so on and so forth, right? Like these are well established things. Companies like Amazon, companies like Google, etc. Amazon more so than anyone else have articulated and built these processes so well that more often than not, you just got to follow them, right? You just got to use the same processes and inculcate them into your company's team, right? It's like, for example, the best team is usually not the 11 best players in their role, but it's the best team is basically a group of people who adhere to a standard way of working, right? So that's to do with building a product in India, right? I think building a product in India, building a product in the US or any other place now, it's not much different, right? It's the same set of practices because you have very good talent in India, as good talent in that you'd find in any other part of the world. Now, the second part which you said is for India. I think that is where what do you call? I think that is where you need to really spend time understanding the market, right, and really spend time understanding what the market would monetize and how would the market monetize. I think more often than not, we tend to accept whatever the developed market has done as the way to build products, or should I say, as the way to monetize. In a country like India, monetization is different, right? You got to view how you will monetize in a country like India. You got to make monetization mechanisms that work for India, right? For example, a lot of times people keep questioning what is the rationale behind taking entry fee for tournaments, right? I'll give you a simple example. Right, back in school when we were kids, we used to all play cricket leagues, right? We used to have a team of 11 people, and we used to play a cricket league. I'm sure you also did it in some format, be it a cricket league, be it a chess tournament, be it a pool tournament, be it a caroms tournament, whatever it is, right? Now, when you were playing that league, your team used to put together, each player in your team puts in $100 or $150, and they used to pay the registration fee for the league, correct? Right? Now, once they paid the registration fee for the league, the organizers of the league used to take as part of that amount and set up the facilities and do all of that stuff. So, and the rest of that amount used to go into putting together the prize money for the team that won the league, correct? Right. Now, if all of that, if that is something you're comfortable doing in physical sport, why is it so far-fetched to understand that can be a wonderful monetization model when you're doing it for digital games like chess, digital games like pool, digital games like caroms, right? And if that is a monetization model that works very, very well, you should do that monetization model, right? And it's a great way to build competitive gaming in the grassroots, right? So that's one of the things that I wanted to, that I always keep thinking about. So that's to do with building for India. Now, building for US, different ballgame. You want to go build for Europe, different ballgame, right? But when you're building for a market, you got to figure out monetization that works for that market, not a monetization strategy that works for some other market and slap it onto this market.
Got it. In fact, there was a very interesting question that has come through the audience from Kriti, and she asks, effective monetization strategy that doesn't hamper user experience. Like, how do you strike that balance? What is your take on?
And which is exactly the monetization strategy that we are following, right? We are not asking you to pay to unlock the next level. We are not asking you to pay. We're not asking you to pay to say, buy this fancy good, or we're not asking you to buy for a pair of sunglasses.
There is a monetization strategy, in fact, that is working to improve the user experience rather than the other way.
Exactly, right? Here's a monetization strategy that tells you, hey, you know what? Go pay this entry fee, join a tournament, compete with 10,000 people who enjoy playing this game like yourself, and if you win the tournament. And I think it actually improves the user experience, and it's good for the user, it's good for the game developer, and it's good for the ecosystem. Yeah,
absolutely. While we are still on this topic of building for India, and then your experience in the US, I still want you to kind of think a little hard and let me know if there are some differences that you can still kind of identify in your head between how it was developing a global brand product in the US and then now in India and the MPL stuff. Obviously, you've carried forward the best practices. You've probably learned some things, how to do them better compared to the previous organization. But are there some differences that exist?
Yeah, I think there's one fundamental difference, right? In developed economies, time is more valuable than money. In developing economies, money is more valuable than time. So if you're building a product that goes and tells the user that, hey, you know what, I'm going to save you time, right? It's not going to be a mass market product in India, because in India, everyone's got a lot of time, right? And in India, in any developing market, money is more valuable than time. But if you build a product that very clearly has a succinct value proposition that talks about this is how I'm going to save money for you, or this is how I'm going to enable you, then that becomes a very clear product. So that's one key differentiator between developing and developed markets. I think the other key differentiator between developed and developing markets is that in developing markets, if you are building a consumer company and if you're building a consumer product, building a brand is a non-negotiable. You have to build a brand, right? And yeah, some of the investors in our early part of our journey were like, why are you spending so much money on building a brand? In fact, a lot of people said that we were stupid to sign Virat Kohli so early in our company's journey, right? But but in all honesty, I think that's probably one of the best masterstrokes in advertising that's been done in this country. I think no other startups even thought of doing something like that, and that's paid off significantly well for us. So you have to build a brand.
Maybe let's spend like 10 seconds on this, right? So how was it like? Do you have any anecdotes of like talking to Virat Kohli about this, and then what drove for you?
Yeah. Right, so actually, yeah. So it was less me, but it was more the person who leads brand for me, brand marketing and growth. His name is Abhishek Madhavan, and Vivek, two people who, in fact, they were the two guys who actually went and signed the entire. They made this happen, and it was literally 1.5 months after we launched our product. We started the company in June 2018. We launched our product in September, and we were talking to sign him in around October, November, and a lot of people thought we were cuckoo, right? And in all honesty, I think we in our company we believe in what we refer to as decentralized leadership. That essentially means that it starts from this philosophy called specialists are way more important than generalists. That is, if you are a specialist in a field and you are a subject matter expert, then you get to make the calls, right? So it's your decision. You want to sign Virat, you want to sign Messi, you want to sign Ronaldo. That's your call, right? If you feel that's the right thing to do, let's go do it. And we did that, and we backed that up with a large TV campaign, practically in March of 2019. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was very tough. We honestly thought we screwed it up fully, but in retrospect, I think that was one of the best things we did for the company.
That's amazing, because the conventional B school teaching will tell you you can wait for years to kind of start building and investing in your brand, get your product right, get your revenue numbers in order, and then start to think about building a brand. And here you're kind of pulling the brand movement forward.
Yeah, so I think conventional. See, more often than not, and let me not leave the audience with the wrong kind of thought process here, is that more often than not, conventional thinking works 8 out of 10 times, right? Conventional wisdom works 8 out of 10 times. More often than not, that's the right thing to do. But those 1 or 2 times is when, as a leader and as a founder, you need to see that in this 1 or 2 times, conventional wisdom probably doesn't make sense. And in those 1 or 2 times is when the reason why you're a founder and the reason why you get investors to put lots of money behind you is for those 1 or 2 times. Because 8 out of 10 times, everyone else is going to do the same thing, and which is taught in every school. But the reason why you're a founder and the reason why you're taking the risk is to make those 1 or 2 decisions and getting those 1 or 2 decisions right. So that, and we were lucky. In all honesty, we were very, very lucky also, right? Let me not take any role of luck away from it. Significantly lucky. We also had a very, very good angel investor who was exceptionally supportive, and he was pushing us that side. If you don't sign this, if you don't do this, then you'd be making a big mistake. And so yeah, that kind of helped us.
Great. No, excellent. So the other thing that obviously probably it helped you on was all the distribution part of it, right? So the story around distribution that I wanted to kind of drill a little deeper for our audience was on the fact that obviously you're not on the Play Store. How does distribution come into play? And then having to been able to kind of build this huge empire outside of the Play Store or the App Store, right? what is this discovery process been like, and what are the learnings in that journey?
Sure. See, I mean, in all honesty, we are not the only guys outside Play Store, right? There's so many other large companies outside Play Store, and they've all done a fabulous job. So a lot of credit goes to them, to be honest, right? You know, they've kind of paved the path for us so that we could kind of replicate some of the things that they've done. So a lot of credit goes to them. But you know, in all honesty, if you look at it, what does Play Store provide to you today? The only thing Play Store provides to you is trust, right? When you go to Play Store and when you install an app, all that Play Store is telling you is that, hey, you know what? This app is trustworthy. You can install it. It's not going to do things to your phone which you don't want it to do. That's pretty much what it is. Distribution, man, there are equally good CDN providers who will enable you to host your APKs on the CDN, and then you can download it very, very effectively. Your website can be as good as any other website. Right. Of course, there are one or two speed breakers. Like, for example, in Play Store, you just tap on install and the app installs seamlessly. But if you were to download and install the app, you might have to do a couple more steps. But the thing is, the important thing that any builder needs to be cognizant about is that if you have something where there is a product market fit, right? Play Store, no Play Store, you put 50 speed breakers in front of the customer will find you. Right, that's the beauty of product market fit, right?
Right.
The only biggest force in the world is that of the market, right? Once the market is there, the customers will eventually find it, right? So I think for people who are building, the focus should be on achieving PMF, and when you do achieve PMF, even if you don't want to, you will end up doing reasonably okay. So that's the beauty of it's like this, right? A huge market is like a downstream river. Even if you aren't rowing, you'll keep moving, right? Because the market keeps carrying you along, right? But a small market is like an upstream river. Even if you have the best rowers with you and you row as hard as you can, after a point you're going to get tired, and eventually things aren't going to work for you. Yeah.
Right. No, it also depends on the timing. Like, right, you played things right at the right moment with the right distribution strategy, with the right monetization angles to it. So now, obviously there are few things that work really well for MPL. So, I want to kind of focus a little bit on the retention part of the equation, right? The customer retention part of the equation. So you've got this like double-sided referral loops. How does that kind of play out for MPL? And what's the focus that it brings for you on the retention side?
Yeah. So I think referral worked very, very well for us in the first 6 months. See, and I think it's important to understand for everyone here that referral always works for a while. After a while, it saturates. Yes. Any referral program, it saturates. And what referral net does to you is that a well-designed referral program will drive massive growth, and massive growth of quality users as well as crappy users. Let me just put it both ways, right? It ensures that you get a barrage of users, right? And what you need to realize and what you need to understand is that you need to figure out ways and means to separate the quality users from the rest, and ensure that you build loops and funnels in your product that engages the quality users and gets them to do meaningful things. So don't stress too much if you're getting 100 referrals, out of them 40 or 50 or 60 don't make sense, and that's fine. But the 30 or 40 that do make sense, ensure that you're focusing your energy on their journeys in the product and you're doing a good job for them, right? I think that's something about referrals, which is very, very important to do. I think second thing in hindsight, if we were to, even though our referral did do pretty okay for us, I think in hindsight, if I were to redo my referral program now, I think I would have put limiters on it in saying that you just get to refer 2 people in a week or 3 people in a week or something like that. And then every week you unlock more referrals for people. What that net does is that it makes people, everything is supply demand, right? If you supply too much, the demand goes away. If there's too much demand and you don't supply, eventually the demand dies away, right? So even referral you got to treat it like a supply demand equation. You got to balance it out, right? And you got to, because at the end of the day, Chinmaya, is that if every user net gets you at least 1 or 2 other quality users, man, you're good. You don't need users who, you don't
That's
need
the virality you're looking for.
Exactly. So you don't want users to get you hundreds of them, right? You just want everyone. You want Chinmaya to meaningfully get 2 of his friends who he thinks would enjoy this product. That's it. you don't want Chinmaya to get his entire contact book on this product, because most probably 9 out of 10 people on his contact book probably won't find this relevant, right?
Sure.
So that's looking back, I think that's probably one of the key learnings from referrals that I had.
Maintaining clear focus on even the referral loop is extremely important through the journey.
Of course, yes.
Got it. Gonna like ease a very simple question for you. Like you would have done like dozens of decisions for your product in the journey, right? What's that one kind of product decision that you think worked like 10x better than others in hindsight?
I think the one our focus to invest in synchronous play, right? We made it a focus for the company very, very early that synchronous gameplay is the future. That is, Chinmay and Sai playing a game of pool simultaneously at that point is something that is a game changer. It's very obvious, if you look at it, it's kind of obvious, but a lot of folks don't see it, right? But that's something that was a big game changer.
Got it. I'm going to now switch gears and maybe take few audience questions. I think your comments have actually sparked a lot of interest. So one interesting question from Rudranil is that does the world belong explicitly to games or to gamified applications?
I mean, the world. It's too much of a. It's a bit of a hyperbole to say that the world belongs to gaming. I think what's going to happen is that you're definitely going to see a platform in the future where there will be a tournament where there are 1 million, 2 million people, where someone sitting out of New York is going to compete with someone sitting out of Sao Paulo in Brazil, with someone sitting out of Berlin, with someone sitting out of Muzaffarpur in India. All of these people will be competing in a single tournament. Think of even in a game like chess, right? They could all be competing in a single tournament where there are 1 million people playing simultaneously, and you would be able to see the broadcast of the games in those tournaments. So I think that's going to happen. Now, whether that means games going to eat the world or not, that I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Got it. There's one question around fantasy sports apps. So they say like if fantasy sports app seen as mobile game, it actually is like a betting app. Isn't fantasy sports betting something like a compressed version of Football Manager meant for consoles?
I mean, the question itself carries the answer, right? Football Manager for consoles. I mean, this entire conversation around console games, PC games, man, most people in India can't afford a PC or a console, right? Most mobile phones is the only way that folks in our country are going to enjoy gaming. So if people are stuck in this puritanical world that gaming is only done on PCs, consoles, etc., I think that time is gone, right? Mobile gaming is the largest, and it's going to eat up the rest of it in a significant way. So if they feel that Football Manager is a game that people play and play well, then why is it not right for someone to build a wonderful fantasy game or a fantasy app on the mobile phone? So that's the reason I feel the question itself carries the answer.
Right. There is another one that has a very interesting perspective. It says like the PC games did not really take off in India that much, right? Despite the fact that there was improving computer penetration in India. What's different with mobile games? I think we've answered partially this question, but please go ahead.
I think the question again, like, boss, nobody's got a PC, man. PC किसी के पास नहीं है. So then PCs are very expensive, very slow. Man, like mobile phones, I'm sure you prefer your mobile phone to your PC any day. So it's like mobiles are just it's just more accessible. That's the reason why mobiles are more. PCs aren't gonna make it.
Got it. I'm gonna like ask you a little bit about, while we get more questions from the audience, a little bit about the consumer insights specifically, right? So when there are, we keep hearing about the fact that the tier 2, tier 3 cities, Mangalore, Bhubaneswar, these kind of pockets are kind of sending a lot of gamers, and the next billion users are really kind of coming up from there, cities like that. What has been your secret of like onboarding these users that we define as like Bharat users, and how much percentage of your current audience is coming from these kind of segments?
See, I think the credit goes squarely to Jio. It doesn't go to any of us, because they ensured that data penetration reaches pretty much all of these smaller cities and towns, and this entire thing of companies doing something specifically for Bharat or etc. So on and so forth. I don't buy that argument, right? If it is a good product, someone sitting in Bangalore is as much likely to use that product as a person sitting out of Bangalore, right? I think the question is it a good product, and do people have the ability to access good products? What changed in the last 2-3 years is the fact that people in smaller towns and cities in the country are able to access these products, and which is the reason why you'll see a surge of users from smaller towns and cities in India across every product, not only just ours. You see every product, you see that surge, and I'm sure that's true in your portfolio as well.
Right. No, absolutely. But the other challenge that comes with this, whole set of diversification and geography and differences in consumers is just like the ability to be able to understand, what this consumer is telling you. So one of the questions that is always there on my mind is saying, how do you kind of customize product with so much diversification around, specifically when you're getting new users on board?
I think the most important thing is to understand the communication to those users. I think people often spend too much time on customizing the product, whereas they should be actually customizing the communication. These are two very different things: communication and product, right? How you communicate to that user versus your product, your flows need not change. Your communication may have to change. So don't try to do any fancy gimmicks on your flow. For example, it's not as you might be in Bangalore, or you might be in Kurnool, but most things are still the same, right? People do similar things similar way. The way people go about doing the things is pretty much the same. The way a person books a flight ticket in Kurnool and the way a person books a flight ticket in Bangalore isn't going to change just because they're in Kurnool or Bangalore, right? The way it's communicated that, maybe some places, the products, you just need to change the language. Maybe simple communication cues. So communication and product flows are two very different things. So product flows inevitably stay the same. It's the communication that differs.
Got it. And the same thing applies, I believe, for regional languages, right? It's mostly communication, but the game flow kind of remains consistent.
Of course.
Okay. I think there's a very interesting question around how does a gaming PM differ from other PMs, and do you think they have an edge over others?
Yeah, right. I think it's not that they have an edge over others. Honestly, it's just that games are live products. Live products, they are like, for example, if I'll give you a simple example. Let's assume you're ordering food. Let's assume you tapped on a restaurant and it took 5 seconds longer to load, right? You will be okay with it, man. It's not okay. Nothing's going to change. Fine. You'll choose what you want to eat, and 5 seconds later, you're playing a game. The character loads 5 seconds later. You feel like throwing the phone away, right? That's the margin of error with games, right? The margin of error with games is very, very low, very, very low. So when as a product manager, when you're working on such thin margins and you're trying to ensure that the experience has to be so good, you just tend to become, your attention to detail just tends to become so much better, right? And that's the reason why, if you're a product manager, then you should spend a little bit of time at least trying to work on games, because it just gives you a perspective which other products will not be able to.
Got it. In fact, leading into the talent and the technology part of the equation of MPL, what sort of technology infrastructure do you think gaming industry needs right now? Is it like good enough? You have to build something from scratch?
I think a lot of things are there, right? And I think you don't need to build things from scratch anymore in any industry, to be honest. Even if you're starting a company which does machine learning, pretty much most models are already available, right? You just need to build from there, right? And if anybody is thinking that they want to go build from scratch, honestly, they're being a little foolish, right? You just have to pick up things that are there and just build from there. But as far as in India is concerned, I think pretty much all of these tools are available. There's Unity, there's Unreal, there's so many things. Like today you can make wonderful games because the game engines itself are so much better than what they were 5-6 years back.
True. But you also feel that, let's say, with the advent of 5G, there was a question around saying 5G is going to be in India. What's the kind of momentum that will enable for the gaming industry in general? Will the quality of the game
simple 4G, 5G is basically pipe of internet connection, right? If you
Right.
can send 10, if you can send 10 megabits per second in 4G, you'll be able to send 100 in 5G. Now,
Correct.
the fact that exactly that's simple what it is. So two things will change. Latency will reduce, right? So
Right.
you can actually start playing games with people from all over the world. That's the first thing that will happen. The second thing that will happen is the you will slowly start seeing cloud gaming become more a reality. It's still far away. I mean, Google launched Stadia. They tried something with it, but it eventually didn't pan out in the way they thought it would. But
Mhm.
but I think those kind of things will become more a reality in the next 4 to 5 years as 5G becomes more prevalent.
Got it. In terms of scaling part of the equation, Sai, when you look at scaling that happens in e-commerce or let's say social commerce or some of those high kind of bandwidth intensive sectors where scaling can be dramatic from 0 to 100 million or whatever. What are the kind of unique insights from the gaming world that you think kind of either compare very well with them or are similar?
So I think, for example, if you want to scale up an e-commerce product from 0 to 100 million, you even if you want to, you can't do it in a year because you got to scale up logistics, you got to scale up 50,000 other things where a lot of physical moving parts are needed. The beauty of scaling a game up is you just need to, add servers, right? So that you can do practically in, one day, right? It's the beauty of yeah, that's the beauty of digital products, right? The beauty of digital products is literally your imagination is the limit. You can do wonderful things you can do things at scale which are practically unimaginable in physical worlds. In fact, I mean, if there's some gamers here, they'll tell you that the kind of virtual worlds that people have built on Minecraft, and it's just incredible. That I mean, if that's not art, I don't know what is. Right, the kind of
Right.
intricate detail that they would put into their work is just mind-boggling.
Right. In fact, you touched upon this briefly earlier when we were talking about the quality of talent itself,
Yeah.
right? You talked about there is art, there is science, and that combines beautifully in the world of gaming. So I want to focus a little bit on that, right? There are a lot of aspiring product managers, creators, entrepreneurs in the audience. Like, what is it that we need to do here in India to kind of really nurture high quality gaming talent that can contribute to this industry? Should there be special training? What's your perspective on this?
I think the first thing that people should do is probably just make games. Right, make a bunch of games. You'll make one or two. You'll fail in them. Then the third one you'll do okay. And the fourth one you'll do much better. Then the fifth or sixth one you'll really really do a great job of it. Right. I think
Right.
if you really want to make games, there's no better way than just going about it. I think India has always produced great artists, right? Just so you know, some of the best movies in the world, right? Be it some of the movies that Disney makes, most of the art is actually done in India, right? In fact, if you see the credit screens at the end, you'll see a lot of credits which are actually coming for Indians because these are all art studios based out of India. So there's no shortage of wonderful artists, incredible artists in India. There's incredible motion designers in India.
Right.
It's just that their work contributes to a larger movie which is made out of Hollywood or some other place.
Right.
It's just about ensuring that you find them, you bring them in, and you give them an opportunity to work on a large game, and they'll be able to do it. So yeah, so there's no shortage of talent. I'm 100% certain in India definitely there's no shortage of talent.
Right. And for aspiring product managers in that space, do you think that there are certain skills that need to be optimized compared to others, or more or less similar to other
I think
industries?
I think the thing for product managers, it's just they need to realize that the rigor in gaming is more than the rigor in other industries. Like I told you, it's a live product, right?
Right.
So you're probably glued in a lot more than you would be in other companies. So I think that and yeah, that's pretty much the only difference. Apart from that, first principles are first principles in any internet company.
Got it. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to spend some time future gazing. Okay, so you want
Sure.
to look at what's kind of in store.
Sure.
One of your partners from base partners, Eduardo, actually had done a nice LinkedIn post, and he says, "Listen, we are eager to see you expanding globally and building like an esports giant." So do you see yourself like as a big global esports giant? And if yes, then what is it? What is your blueprint to get there?
And the blueprint to get there is very simple. In fact, I told you in one of the previous questions that you asked, right? Like, let us assume the situation again, which I told you, right? It's not far-fetched to think a million people to compete in a single tournament where, like, 100,000 are coming from India, 10,000, 20,000 from Europe, another
Right.
300,000 from, say, Americas, some more folks from Asia. All of them are competing in a single tournament, right? Where in round one, 500,000 people get eliminated, round two, 250,000 people get eliminated. And Chinmay, just imagine each of those 100,000 people paid $1 as the entry fee for a chess tournament, right? The prize money of that tournament will be significantly higher. Just to give you context, Wimbledon's prize money is around 7-8 million. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of context of what I'm talking about, right? So these kind of tournaments will probably happen every once in 2-3 minutes or 4 minutes on the platform. Just imagine, Chinmay, right? You and I are a part of that tournament, and we're a million people, right, to begin with. And let's assume you and I somehow made it to the quarterfinals. That is, we were 8 out of a million. And you and I are playing the quarterfinals game, which is a chess game. Chess because it's simple to understand. You and I are playing that game. Not just imagine if we were to broadcast that game. I'm reasonably certain the other whatever 900,000 and 90,000 odd people who were eliminated and were not the final 8 to have made it. Yeah, they will definitely watch it. They'll definitely want to know what did Chinmay and Sai do that got them to the final 8, right? That
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, and that is the future of digital sport, and that I think honestly is the opportunity that is ahead of MPL, right? And it would only be a pity if we will not be able to achieve it, right? I think if we were a company in the valley by now, people would have been telling us, hey, you know what, you should be going global, right?
Exactly.
Just because we're a company out of Bangalore, it doesn't mean we can't go global, right? And we will go global, and maybe we might fail in a couple of places, but that's okay. But that shouldn't stop us from aspiring to be a global company.
Absolutely. In fact, the other that's a very logical extension to something that we feel that has been missing in some of the other industries. These really, really large players coming from India with original creativity and things like that. So one of the questions that I had was also saying, listen, when will we have like a blockbuster game title coming out of India? Is that something that you foresee in the next few years?
Hopefully, it'll happen. Like, hopefully it'll happen sooner rather than later, right? See, I think you only need the first one to say, hey, it's possible, like, which is what, say, Bahubali did in the world of movies in India. People thought that, oh man, this is cuckoo. Why are you taking so much money and making such a big movie? But to everyone's they proved everyone wrong. They made a wonderful movie, and then everybody said, hey, you know what, this is how we're going to make movies, right? People thought and it's just the first one. So I hope, honestly, I believe that there'll be one top quality AAA title come out of India, and then it'll open the floodgates. Then everybody will say, you know what, we can make it out of India, right? The movie industry in India has done it. The movie industry has produced incredible movies. They can do everything on par with most things on par with Bollywood at 10x lower the price, right? And they produce great quality movies. I think I'm reasonably certain the game industry will also do it, and hopefully this year or next year there will be good games out of India. I'm certain.
Somebody's got to bell the cat and somebody's got to trailblaze. So we hope that NPL leads the way.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So, I'm going to put you in a little bit of spot here. So, gaming as a feature in social media or social media as a feature in gaming products?
I think anybody who trivializes anything as a feature will eventually get trivialized themselves, right? I think you got to do. It's not about what you want, right? Sometimes people make these assertions in their company deck saying that we will build this into this social media app, and they'll do. It's you can think of whatever you want in 50 different ways, and you can build this all this wonderful vision and so on and so forth in your head. But at the end of the day, if the customer really doesn't like what you're doing, then all of that is going to come crashing down. So give you an example, right? Initially, those games took off on Facebook in a huge way, right? That's what Zynga was built on in its early days. But then when mobile phones came along, those games disappeared in no time, right? And everybody wanted to play games on mobile, right? So it's not about what you want, honestly. It's not about what you. It always boils down to what the customer wants and how you meet the customer, right? So most people make this mistake of superimposing what they want on the customer's head. That's a recipe for failure.
Right. No, great. Couple of very quick questions to kind of wrap up the
Sure.
conversation. A great product book that you would want to recommend to the audience here.
Great product book. I think this one book which really was it's a long book, kind of repetitive, but you can just read the first half and you'll get the gist. It's called Principles by Ray Dalio. It's a very nice book because all products are built on principles, right? You got to
Right.
lay down what are the set of 10 principles or 15 principles you're going to follow. Everything flows down from it, right? And so that's a wonderful. It's not for internet products. He built a large hedge fund, but net principles are principles irrespective of which industry. That's a wonderful book. Then I think and I think the other book that I'd really recommend is this general read. It's called Good to Great. I think it's a wonderful book. I think it's a very popular book, but if you haven't read it, you should most certainly read that book.
Great recommendations. In fact, Ray Dalio's essays and blogs that regularly appear on LinkedIn, I think are great reads. And some of the best lessons in resilience as well. So,
Yes.
And I'm assuming that he's also one of the one of the people that you follow. Any other specific people that you follow on Twitter, on social media for like product learning?
I'm usually not a big person on social media. Like I'm not active on Twitter at all. But I think people spend. If you're a product person, you should spend more time following your customers. I think they'll teach you a lot more than others. I mean, of course, you can follow some of these other people also. You should definitely read their blogs and articles, but you should definitely create a process and a method which allows you to genuinely keep following what your customers are doing and what you think they'll do next. And in all of this, we always keep forgetting that it is eventually the customer who decides the fate.
Got it. No, this has been absolutely like a pleasure of a conversation, just kind of soaking in all the insights that have come from you. So thank you so much, Sai, for
Thank you, Chinmaya.
sharing this time. And I'm sure the audience has really enjoyed learning from your experience building MPL, and wishing greater heights for both MPL and you. And for the
Thank you so much.
I would encourage them to continue listening to the Maker Summit. I think amazing sessions lined up for the next couple of days. So thank you once again, everyone, and thank you, Sai.
Thank you, Chinmaya. Thank you, Ajit.
Over to you, Ajit.
Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you, Sai. Chinmay, you wrapped it up so well. I have to thank you first for weaving this conversation so beautifully. I was on a journey. We could get an insight of what Sai thinks and the company thinks, and that happened so gradually. So thank you. Sai, you were so articulate. You were so simple and clear in helping us understand what is happening. How do you think? How the industry should think? We are grateful you have stirred the minds of a lot of people on the platform. We can see the chats and conversations that are happening. Something that interests us at various different levels, but it does interest everyone. So genuinely grateful to both of you. And to our viewers, we want you to stay tuned into the platform. And we are going to be back with our next session at 6:15, where we will be joined by Gaurav Munjal and Bhavendra Rakia. Stay tuned for that and see you in a bit. Enjoy the platform, make connections, and get the ideas and conversations that you need to make magic. See you in a bit. Bye.